All right, back on this live stream. Before I get started with this live stream, what I gotta do? I gotta post it live right here. All right. So the first thing we do, we hop on the stream. Let's look at Forex Factory. We look at the red news that's happening for the day. So the most recent red news, um, was the one for 10 a.m., which is right now. That's why I started the stream so late. And yeah, and that's the only red news. So before we look at the charts, we're gonna go through all my accounts to show y'all everything is still the same from the last streams. We only took 3 trades this month. One was a loss, then it was a break even, then it was a loss. That's all we took. So the last trade that I took was taken for FXify because it didn't have crypto, but it was taken for 5%. That's why this one is still the same right here. That's the FXify account right there. Now, if we go to my 5% Cherries account, right, you can see that the drawdown had dipped even more because of that loss we took. So we're just gonna follow the rules, I'm showing y'all the balance. I'm in drawdown. It is what it is. Everybody experiences drawdown. It's about what you do, right? So we're gonna open up these charts and see what's going on. Okay, let's start off from the top right here on Bitcoin. Bitcoin automatically, I could tell that Bitcoin is not ready for a lower time frame entry on the 5 minute because of the spot we're in on this context time frame. So for a 5 minute entry, there's 3 time frames I'll use. I mean, you could say 3 to 4, but the main time frames is the 5 hour, the 30 minute, and then the 5 minute for entries. Sometimes I'll hop to the daily to get more clarity, but it's very clear that Bitcoin right now is starting to make a bullish move that goes, the step a time frame higher to see more clarity with the trend. But it's moving higher. You can see how fractal price is. If you were to say this was like a entry time frame, it looks very clean in terms of a weekly perspective for higher price action. So that's how you can think about it as well. So me going on this 5 hour right here, right? A flush is basically price coming to that 50 or coming down on all the MAs. So example is this right here. When price went under all the MAs in the bullish context, that's a flush. The moment that price comes up, makes a pause, which is a candle that prints before taking out the previous candle's high. As long as it pauses against the 10, which is the black line, or the 20 and the red line, and pushes higher, I'll consider that the first context breaker structure because of this time frame. So what we had here was we had a flush, context breaker structure one, context breaker structure two, and I was expecting higher price actions. But instead, we ended up reflushing right here because we're coming back down to that 50. So I can automatically tell it's not ready for me to go on a 30-minute time frame for confirmations, which means it's also not ready for me to go on a 5 minute time frame. So this is how I use multi time frame analysis to stay out of the markets, even though I have a lot of markets on this watch list. So it's not even ready for me to go on this 30 minutes because look at this. There's no clarity. It's just moving sideways. So I'm the type of person that looks for a trend. So if I'm taking entries, because my entry setup is happening in here. There was one right here. There was one in between here, but the context of the market is moving sideways. So Bitcoin is not ready. Let me look at Euro USD. Euro USD is not ready at all. It's just like it's looking like Bitcoin basically. It's the same type of analysis. So if I can let me just get rid of all this, some clarity here. So it's the same thing like Bitcoin. Let me show y'all right here. So we have a flush. So the flush is when the price comes to that 50 or under all the MAs. So what do we expect after that flush? We have expect 4 to 5 breaks of structure before price reflushes. So right now there's nothing for me to do for Euro USD if I'm looking for a 5 minute entry because I'll first need the 5 hour to establish a trend to the upside like that right there. And at that point, the 30 minute will start looking clearer because it's starting a trend, and I'll wait for that pause against the 10 and 20. So basically, the 30 minute and the 5 hour, the 30 minute, which is the validation, the 5 hour, which is the context, I basically want to see the same type of price action. So for now, I'm not looking at Euro USD. Let's look at gold. Gold is still in the same spot. Yesterday, if you was here on the live stream, I was expecting what I wanted to do before looking at gold was waiting for it to just push out. So you can see the similarities between Euro USD and Bitcoin. All of them are practically doing the same thing. So we had the flush, you see right here, and simply I'm waiting for a price to make a move out of that, and from that point, the 30 minute will start to look clear. But right now, for my strategy, it's not going to be wise to trade this. Maybe for somebody else who has a strategy for trading the range, this will be a market condition for them. So it's about identifying that condition. Let's see what else is here. So USD CHF, I was overall short on this. You can see clearly it's moving lower. Right here we have um, a context flush because we're on that 5 hour. That's price coming above these MAs in a short scenario, right? But the 30 minute doesn't look good right now because what are we doing right now? We're basically, let me highlight it for y'all, moving sideways in this area. On top of that, we're in this flush right here because like I said, the 30 minute and the 5 hour, I basically want to see the same type of price action movement. So if I look right here, I'll call this the V flush because that's a validation time frame. That's what I call it. It doesn't matter, but the names and stuff like that, it just matters about the price action what it's doing. So we have a flush right here, and typically what I would want to see is move out, pause against the 10 and 20. But I needed to come out of this range because it can easily just continue to chop around this whole session. So I don't want to be a part of that. Let's go to USD JPY. On to start by the higher time frame. It basically looks like USD CHF. I ain't gonna hold you. Overall, I've been looking for shorts based on this daily as well, like multiple breaks of structure to the downside. The 5 hour, we had a context flush right here. Let's leave this out the way, right there. We have the context flush. We have moved lower. I know the 30 minute is not ready either because we're just like in this flush state right here. So what I would want is for price to make a move down, probably out of this whole range, whatever this is. Pause against the 10 and 20, and that's when I would go into 5 minutes. So there's multiple steps. Good morning, man. Good morning. I'm here just analyzing, getting prepared to see if we see anything today. USD JPY is not ready at all. So let's go to US 30. Okay, US 30 has this huge move. Let's look at the higher time frame see what's really going on. So US 30, I'm expecting like just short-term shorts. I do understand that US 30 is on a heavy bullish trend. If you look at the weekly, you can see it clearly is going higher right now. But for the short term, since this daily is showing like a short term bearish trend, I want to look for the short term shorts, right? So if I go on this 5 hour time frame though, there's no clarity in this price action. Me looking at this price action, it's the same thing I said yesterday, but it looks ugly basically. It looks ugly. We have this price is just not doing anything. It's just in this same price range, which means me trying to look for a trend out of a market that's staying in the same price range on average wouldn't be smart for me. So that's another market that I would just ignore. The stocks are probably doing the same thing as well. Let me see. So, the daily, we have some short-term shorts from Meta right here. Let me see if I can find some clarity. Um, Price has flushed right here. Call this the flush, and we started moving down. See, man, let me see. So we had a flush. We started to move down right here. This is a 5 hour time frame. So it's good to hop on the 30-minute time frame because the 5 hour time frame, when it started this flush, it started making this move down on a 5 hour, which is the context. So me going on the validation time frame, I want to see the same type of movement happening right here. So honestly, I wouldn't do anything as of right now because the structure is moving bullish on this 30-minute time frame. So I would probably need like more proof that price does actually want to go lower, maybe with a few breaks of structure as it's doing the cycle. But because I have to keep in mind, stocks are overall bullish. If this was the case where if this was like flipped around, so say if let's just say Meta was overall bearish, right? Then I would actually be happy to potentially look for a setup with price coming to pause against these MAs to look for shorts. But the fact that we got to keep in mind stocks are overall bullish, right? So I would need more proof if I'm going to get those shorts as well. So Meta, I'll put Meta in blue because we could have some proof by having like a break of structure continuing lower if price moves lower. So I'll put that in blue. DJ30 is the same as US 30, so we can put that in red. And then USD CAD. Let me see what's going on with here. USD CAD. See. So we have a flush happening right here. Flush right here. And practically it's really not doing anything. I'll probably want to see a move away. Because at that point, if price is moving away, then the 30-minute will start to look clear. But look at this. This is price action I just don't want to trade. Look at that. And that's how basically I stay out of terrible price action. Um, and I don't need to analyze any of these stocks right here because US 30 and most of these stocks they just move similar. So you're gonna notice the same thing happening. So example like actually Nike right here looks different, a little bit different. Hmm. Okay, Nike has actually been looking a bit clearer. Maybe I was wrong. Let me see. Let me just analyze it. Let me analyze it. So what we have here is we have flush right here. That's happening. I started to make that move away, right? So the 30 minute start is probably making a trend. Mm, mm. And it's in its own thing right here. So what I could say is this actually Nike doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too bad. It's all the way lower right here. Let me add this up here. All the way lower. It started a cycle. So let's label the cycle actually. It's showing us clear momentum downwards. Like shows us weakness basically. So validation flush. This is where it came under all the MAs. This candle closes in the next 15 minutes. So this is the pause I'll be talking about when one candle prints before taking out the previous candle's low. If we come to that 10 right here, at least the 10, 20 around there, there might be a clean setup on a 5 minute. Yeah. So what I want to see on the 5 minute entry time frame is basically a relative like straight move, right? It doesn't play around right here and then it goes up. Just makes a nice general move right here, and then as it's at that point, if price is near that 10 or 20, at that point on the 5 minute, price will be near that 50 EMA. And from there, I'm waiting for proof by waiting for the price to move down, make that impulse like the a pause, and I'll set a sell stop. So I actually like how this looks. So Nike, I can put this on green. The only thing with about trading Nike is I'll only be able to trade it for. I have a Darwin X account because I'm trying to build a long-term track record for investors. Because even though prop firms are good, a 10% drawdown isn't really realistic. Um, Prop firms did a 10% drawdown for a reason because they need to make money as well. So me building a track record with Darwin X is going to be helpful for me in a couple years when I can get like 10 million, 20 million under my like belt. That's what I'm thinking more long term. So I'm probably going to only be able to trade that if I'm only to trade stocks and stuff like that because my profit accounts don't have stocks. But this does look clear to me. Uh, Let me just take a look at the other stocks real quick. Wow. Do I even have Starbucks on here too? Let me check my account. I probably should have connected my Darwin X account on my laptop so I could show y'all if I do get a trade. But mm, I would have to do it if I do get a trade. What I'm gonna do it with is I'm gonna connect my account to my laptop tomorrow and show y'all that P&L if I do take a trade, or if I don't take a trade, I can connect it off stream because I don't want to type in my password and everything because I'm live. But yeah, let me see. Uh, Making sure I have Starbucks. I know I have Nike. Yeah, I got Starbucks as well. So let me see what's on here. So Starbucks, let's start from the higher time frame so I can see what's going on. You get Starbucks, clear. Like you can see the difference between a market that's showing you clarity on where it wants to go versus a market like this. You see the difference? Even though it's showing bearishness, look where it's at right here. Just playing around in this mid range versus something like Starbucks. So that's what I mean by context. So it's moving nicely. We had a flush right here. Context flush. And then we moved away. 30 minute. This one looks more ready than Nike. So we had a flush right here. And then from that flush, Price paused against the 10 and 20. This one is the one that paused against the 20 and 20. Hmm. I still need this candle to close too, because I gotta keep in mind the low was created by this candle, so the next candle needs to close in the next 11 minutes, like that. Hmm. I'm trying to see if I should consider. I could consider this. It doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna consider this the validation breaker structure one right here. Validation breaker structure two. So I know that potentially we can have, you know, 4 to 5. So I can wait on this lower time frame right here. And this looks way better than, yeah. And it's basically doing the same thing. Look, so we made the straight move, right? It came up to that 50. It's okay if it comes through to 50 as well, because it's about what price is doing, right? So if price can make its way down, make a pause, I'll take a sell stop. And the way how the pause looks is important as well. The pause needs to be rejecting against the 10 or 20. It can't break through the 20, which is the red line. If it breaks back through the 20, then I consider that invalid. So yeah. And now it's just really a waiting game and seeing if price is gonna set up. But I do think price may set up during the session. Unfortunately, it's just I won't be able to enter into the prop accounts or even a challenge account, which sucks. Ugh. And it is the last day of the yeah, it's the last day of the trading month. So what I'm gonna do is whether I take a trade or not today, I'm gonna have a YouTube video coming out on Sunday next week, going over all the trades I took this month. I'm gonna start doing that so I can have some people on live check out some of my videos as well. That's why I'm doing it as well. So what I'm gonna do is when I take trades during the month, at the end of the month, I'm gonna have a video on my channel that reviews the P&L of that month and it goes over the individual trades that I took that month. So basically like a recap of the overall month. I've been wanting to do something like that where I do weekly recaps, but this year I've been taking on far less trades than usual. So I haven't been doing that. So I was like, let me just do monthly recaps, even if I took like 3 trades. So, and one thing I would never do, I won't take 2 trades um with the same risk at the same time. So if I wanted to take 2 trades, an example it would be my first position would have to be at break even basically. So because if say if this decided to set up something, because there's a way where I can scale into trades, and that's basically if price makes this pause, right? And say if I set my sell stop right here. This is how I basically scale in. If there was an opportunity scaling, right? I'll probably set my stops right here. Wait for if price ends up tagging me in through that sell stop, right? Say if I get to break even and got to do it 1 to 1, right? If price creates another one before taking out this low right here, because the first position is at break even, I can add another scaling position. But what I would do for the second position is I would half the risk of the original position as well. So an example is let's just say the first position I'm risking 1%, right? Wait, I wouldn't even have to on the second position. I would probably do like so. Let me just talk about it. Like, say if I did 1% for right here, I got to break even, and it was creating another setup. The second position, I would risk 0.25 instead of 1%. So this one would be 1%, but it would be at break even at the point at the point that the second entry is created. I hope that made sense. So it's just a way to maximize your winners and stuff like that. Yeah, write it down. 1%. Then the second one would be 0.25. But it wouldn't be a risk to you because the first position, even though I risk 1%, the original position would be at break even. So if the second position ended up losing, right? Because that's possible. If the second position ends up losing, you will only lose 0.25% because the first position at break even. So this is why I'm saying trade management is really important. It can make or break your trading system as well. A lot of people think it's about the strategy, but it's the way how you manage these trades. You can really maximize your winners by knowing how to scale in properly. Wonder what else I could talk about. Hmm, Let me just check what Nike is doing so far. Starbucks still looks the best. But yeah, that's the only way y'all will see me in two trades at the at the same time. If my first position is at break even, I'm just trying to come up with topics as I go because I'm bored just waiting. Waiting is a part of the game, so I might as well talk. Well, I don't know if I mentioned this on my stream before, but one good way you could think about your trading, because trading is about like all the trades combined together instead of individual trades, is once you have your system established and you already tested that system, so you tested your system for at least 100 trades and you back tested that system for at least 6 months. When you're up on that challenge or you have your own live account, the best thing you can do is like say you started trading at January, right? Is automatically expect um a certain number of losses. So say on average, based on your testing, you know that you can get 100 trades throughout the whole year, right? And if your data is saying that you make money with a 30% win rate, what you're gonna do is you're gonna expect 70 losses throughout that whole year. So you're just gonna count it. So when you write, like, let's just say you took a loss, right? You're gonna put it in your journal, note it as a loss, and you're gonna count it up to throughout the year. Every single win you take, you're gonna count that as well. Every single break even you take, you're gonna count that as well. And as long as you're following that same plan that you did in back testing and demo testing, you should come out profitable throughout the end of the year. And one thing you got to realize is even if you don't come out as profitable, like even if you just made like 10% for the year, don't beat yourself up about that, because what you got to understand is most people don't make money trading. 90 to 95% of people lose, right? And trading is a business, so you can build off of that to improve next year. That's what I'm saying. So a lot of people, when they test the system and they see, oh man, I only made 10% out of that system. Well, instead of scratching the whole system, why don't you find a way to improve that number and make it more efficient? It's the same thing with business. When you're growing a business, you don't stop because of the business only made $50 a day. Because if you stop when the business is only making $50 a day, then how will you use the data to improve so you can make 300 a day, so you can make 400 a day, 500. Same thing with trading. So just good tips right there. And that's why it's a must for you to journal your trades. Like even though this is my 2025 journal, I still have my last year trades, all the trades that I took. And one thing you got to understand is like when you're done with all those testing, you're gonna understand that being wrong wasn't as a wasn't big of a deal than what a lot of people made it to seem. Because if you think about it, when 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 we are wrong about our analysis or something, many of us may start to feel bad. But at the point where you're done with all this testing and you're done with back testing for 6 months, you're gonna understand that being wrong will actually help you make money, right? Because being wrong, I could be wrong about this analysis. I tell this all the time. This analysis that I have here, where I'm expecting this move, meant right here to enter right here, lower, it does not have to happen. And this can even happen right here. It goes the opposite direction. But why does being wrong doesn't have an effect on me is because I didn't lose money in the process of being wrong, right? So my system basically has if I don't see this exact thing and it does the opposite thing, then I don't do anything, which means I don't lose money, which means it helps me in the long run, basically. Now, what's it called? If I'm taking a loss that's according to my plan and it looks exactly like how my winners would look, then it's just a loss that fuels the wins. A loss that's a part of the game. So I want to talk about this topic too. There's two different types of losses. There's good losses, there's bad losses. Good losses are simply just losses that are exactly a part of your plan. Bad losses are losses that are not according to the plan. It may be a mistake you made as well, because you're gonna have accidental losses as well. Those are bad losses. But the whole goal is to make sure you minimize as much bad losses as possible. I believe it's completely impossible to eliminate all the bad losses because we're human and we still make mistakes. So like I even talk about this in January. Like I made I made a like I think it was two or three mistakes that could have just it could have made me have a break even month in January, but instead I lost 2%. So it's just certain things like that. Like we still do make mistakes. And one thing you got to understand about trading as well is if you purposely put like a certain requirement on yourself before you actually place a trade in the market, you will do a lot better. And what do I mean by this? In the real life world, right? In order to have a high paying job, you have to have a lot of qualifications in order to get that job. You can't have So say if there's 10 things you have to do in order to have that qualification, you can't have two of those, two out of that on 10 and expect to get that qualification. The problem with trading is it's a high it's a high income skill, but there's not much of a barrier to get in. Anybody can open up a broker account, like a forex broker account, put $100 in and start trading right now today. And it's a high paying skill. Anybody could go ahead and purchase a prop firm account and start trading today. But the issue is people are trading without any actual qualifications because there's no qualifications set by somebody else. And that's why trading, you have to be your own boss. You have to be your own boss. So you have to set those qualifications. And what are those qualifications? It's the same thing I said. It's just understanding your system through the various forms of testing, and you have to do it in order. You can't skip you can't skip any of it. You have to you have to find a system and learn that system. Because if you don't know a system, how can you backtest a system you don't know? So you need a system with clear defined rules on when you should enter and when you should stay out of the market. Once you have that system, you still need to understand proper risk management as well. If you don't understand risk management, you can be the best trader in the world, but still lose it. That's why I don't recommend trying to flip accounts because in the long run, it's not going to really work out because of the high risk. So once you have a system, you understand the risk management. Now you're back testing that system. You're working your way to gain the qualifications it is to be a trader, right? And now you're back testing these trades. During the back testing, the thing that happens is you're gaining experience at by doing the same repetitive boring action over and over and over, right? So that's another qualification you're getting. But if you skip the demo testing phase, you don't have all the qualifications now because you're gonna have the emotion of not being patient when it comes to actually waiting on the chart. Because think about it, I'm on a 5 minute chart, but I'm waiting a lot. Typically, you're going to see most people when they're on a lower time frame charts, they're going to be finding way more trades than me personally. But I like the way how I trade. So, so just imagine somebody on a daily chart, right? And they want to be a higher time frame swing trader. They're not going to understand that each one of these candles is a day. So they're waiting days, weeks for a setup. They're not going to understand that until they're demo testing. So those are just certain qualifications. But that's still going to take time as well. Even though I said those are few simple steps, most people won't do it. And the reason why most people won't do it is because most people were introduced to trading as this thing that you can just make money fast. And yes, that's the case. You can make a lot of money fast, but the part they didn't tell you is the amount of work. So think about it. Does it make sense for you to any high paying job in the real world? Does it make sense for you to come out of high school and be like, yeah, I want to be a surgeon right now? I watched a couple YouTube videos. I get the gist. Um, I completed high school, and yeah, it's time for me to become a surgeon. What if you needed surgery right now? Would you trust the person? Would you trust that person that said, "Yeah, I just came out of high school. I'm ready to do surgery on you." To do surgery on you? No, you wouldn't because they don't have the qualification. Would you trust somebody? Would you trade your own funds, the funds that you worked hard for, when you know deep down if you didn't do the qualifications? No, you wouldn't because you're more likely to lose the money. The whole game of trading is to stay in the game as long as possible so you can take another trade so you can make money in the long run. That's all it is. But if you don't understand the risk management, because that's very important, if you don't understand that, you're going to take yourself out of the game. But yet, you don't take yourself out of the game. And even with prop firms too, you gotta understand, like, even though I'm taking prop firms too, you have to understand as well that we're not really doing we're doing we're you gotta understand that if you're risking 1% on the prop firm, it's not really 1% with that 10% drawdown. We're risking 10%. So that's something you have to have in the back of your head as well. And that's why I'm saying I be telling people that prop firms, they're a good tool, but they're not a good way to determine if you are a if it's not a good way to tell how can I really put it in good words? All right, let me just say it like this. Even if you would hit a 10% on drawdown and you followed your rules, as long as you followed your rules, you stuck to your system and you was patient, even if you hit that 10% drawdown, it does not make you a bad trader at all. I'm gonna put that out there because, like I said, you have a max drawdown of 10, so it take with a 1% risk, it takes 10 trades. Any normal trader to could hit a 10% drawdown with a 1% risk. That is completely normal. That's but the thing is, you got to differentiate. You got to differentiate. Damn, you got to find the difference if you are actually following your system or you're making just silly mistakes throughout that way. That's the only difference. So you got to be really honest with yourself. Yeah. And another thing that can affect your results is um the people you are watching. Make sure like the people that you watch online are extremely transparent and stuff like that. The reason why I say that is because you could be trading properly, you following your system, but because you're seeing another trader possibly not show everything, they're just showing wins most of the time, it's gonna make you feel like you're doing wrong doing your losing streaks as well. There are some traders that show everything. I respect those traders. One trader that I personally like check in on is Trader Nick. He's one of the few peoples on online. I know there's a couple others as well, but he's one of the few peoples online that's gonna show you like all the wins, all the losses. And I'm not talking about the people that's gonna show occasional losses. I'm talking about everything because now like that's more helpful to a person learning because now they understand, okay, this is what's needed instead of they see occasional wins. I mean occasional losses, then most are wins. So they're gonna be trying to fix something that's not really broken, or they're gonna have unrealistic expectations. Because one thing too is I notice how a lot of traders have unrealistic unrealistic expectation on um P&L for the year. Because you ask, is 10% a month realistic? 10% per month is not a realistic target. Some of the most professional traders they come close to that, but not 10% per month. Especially if you're trying to aim for that as a new trader. 10% per month, it's just a recipe for a disaster because because think about it right here. You got to think about the days that you're not going to have any trades. You're going to have to think about the days where you might have unexpected emergencies. You got to think about the days that you take losses, the market conditions aren't really that great in your favor. You're going to have your nice wins. And that's not me saying a 10% month is impossible. A 10% month is possible, but per month means on average throughout the years, like years. I'm talking about 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. You're averaging 10% per per month. But a lot of traders they get that confused with short-term results. Maybe they made 30% in 3 months. They get that confused with 10% per month. And yes, you can increase your risk to hit that, but if we're talking about long term, with increasing your risk like that to hit that goal, you're eventually gonna blow up the account, which doesn't make it sustainable. And the whole game is to last in the game. Trading is already hard enough, so you don't wanna ruin it by over risking. Which can get me to my next point. Let me check Nike real quick. Hmm. They both look so clean. This one broke higher. I'm gonna talk about my next point if I don't forget while I'm looking at it here. I'm gonna see how this candle closes. It's still, to me, since it's on that 20, it could still make a setup lower like this. So the same type of movement. Nike does look a little bit better, so I'm gonna put this at the top. All right, it gets me to my next point. My next point is the reason why I haven't felt the urge to over risk in my trades for a long time. Um, okay, let me just tell you how I used to trade. When I first started trading, the way how I was introduced to trading was through IML. If y'all don't know, IML is basically it was this multi-level. It was a marketing company where they recruit you and they basically get paid off of you recruiting others and stuff like that, like a pyramid scheme. I was introduced to it by my brother's ex-girlfriend at the time. So because of that and because of the YouTube videos I was introduced to as well, I thought that risking 5% per trade was normal, right? Especially with the capital I was trading with. I was trading with only $50, and so I thought like 5% was normal. So naturally, when I took my first prop firm challenge, it was I remember I took a free trial one and I took a actual one. The free trial one I think it was 50K or 25K, one of those, and the actual one I paid for was a 10K one. My normal thought process was risking 5%. I thought that was normal. No, I didn't risk 5% on that. I think I risked 3%, which kind of explain. I do have a YouTube video on like the challenges I failed, but it was I need to update that because that was like years ago. But you could see that I lost that challenge in 2 days. 2 days, and that's because I was introduced to this crazy amount of risk. Because 3%, 5% risk is very high. So that was around like 2021. The moment I started learning from my mentor, I talked about him before. His name is MentorFX. 2022. Everybody in his group was risking from 0.25% to a maximum of 1%. So I came in the group. I'm like, damn, isn't that too small? That's what I'm thinking in my head. So like for a few months in the group, I instead of risking 3%, I just lowered it to 2% because I still didn't understand that 1% is still a good amount. Even 0.25 is a good amount. And the reason why I didn't understand it is because of capital. The more capital you trade with, it doesn't matter if you're risking 0.5%, even 0.25%, because it can be a large gain. But a lot of traders aren't thinking about that. Instead, they're thinking about, oh, I don't have that capital, when they should be thinking about how should I gain the skill set to gain that capital, and so on and so on. So it finally got to the point where I started lowering my risk 1%, 0.5%, and I got to the point where I was risking 0.25% and stuff like that. And that was probably towards like mid mid 2022. I was risking like 0.25%, and I got used to lower risk because I saw more consistency in it. And then I started to understand math behind trading, right? So my logic behind why I don't over risk on any trade is because nobody has a 100% win rate, right? So would you say if you had a say if you had a 40% win rate, 50% win rate, right? Would you bet a 50% chance that your trade, would you risk a higher amount of that trade, right? You have a 50% chance of losing that trade. Would you bet a higher risk to potentially lose that trade and lose your all your hard work that you had before? No, it doesn't make sense because once you start thinking in math perspective, it's gonna change your mindset. So I hope that made sense basically. If nobody has 100% win rate, yet you're gonna decide to over risk on the next trade. It doesn't make sense. And then once I just understood that instead of over risking, I can let the RR play out of my system, the risk to reward. Just keeping my risk the same and um let my winners be way bigger than the losses. That way I don't need to over risk on the next trade because over risking there's so much dangers to that as well. So that's one of the reasons. So it's like it was a built up because I was not always risking this low. I never even thought I was gonna be to the point of risking 0.25, but I didn't really like the 0.25 risk because there was a time where I was trading one of his it was a Mint funding challenge. It's one of his prop firms as well, and I was risking 0.25. Man, it took forever to the point that I didn't want to trade the challenge. I was like, yo. So from that, my next prop firm challenge, I increased my risk to 0.50. But currently, right now, I take on 0.65% risk. Try to keep it as steady as possible. For challenges, I used to, yeah, like I said, I used to risk 0.25 on challenges, but I just saw how ineffective that is, especially when you're not making money on challenges. So a challenge personally, like I would recommend instead of risking super small on a challenge, instead just get a challenge that you can just afford to lose and just risk like 1.5% on it. Because at the end of the day, the challenge doesn't matter because you're trying to get to the funded stage. And once you're at that funded stage, you need to drop your risk. That's exactly what I do. My challenge accounts. This year was the first year I started risking like over 1% on challenges because I have some big goals, and in order to accomplish those goals, I'm gonna need to go more aggressive on the challenges, especially since they don't matter. So yeah, just risk more on the challenges. Make sure you can afford to lose it. Make sure you already got your system down, and just drop your risk on those funded accounts. I recommend like for a risk for funded accounts, I recommend basically less than 1% for funded accounts. If you're planning on keeping them, less than 1%, because you got to keep in mind of that 10% max drawdown. Because 1% is really 10%. Now, if you had your own personal account or you're trading with Darwin X, then I would be like, okay, you could risk 1%. You could maybe risk 2% if you wanted to, depending on your system, because there isn't no max drawdown with that. I wish prop firms didn't have max drawdowns, but I understand they gotta make money too. Let's talk about daily drawdown. Um, I the only time I ever had a problem with daily drawdown was my first challenge. That's the only time I had a problem with daily drawdown because I used to risk a lot. But now I haven't had a problem with daily drawdown in a while because one, I risk less than 1% per trade, and I have rules to basically help me not take multiple trades in a day. I can be here on a 1 minute time frame, and I can still not take multiple trades in a day because I have rules for that. And basically, my rules for trading is if I take one loss in a day, I'm allowed to look for another trade. But if I take two losses in a day, I'm done for the day. Hopping off the charts, not taking no more trades. If I take a total of three losses in a week, I'm done for the week. So what that basically does is it it minimizes my potential overall losses in the month while maximizing my potential reward because I could take two losses in a week and then I may just have the rest of the week just make money. That's basically the thought process of it. So you see me limiting myself to two losses in a day, it's not gonna even hit that daily drawdown of 5%. Just put rules in place so you don't self sabotage yourself. Because that's really what it is. A lot of people just, it's not their trading system, it's mainly dumb. They're self sabotagers themselves. They want the result quick. They're not understanding that the only way to get that result will be just focusing on the process. One thing I always did as well is I still do this sometimes is I would like I don't really read books, but I like to listen to the audio. It's much easier for me as well. So while I'm doing something, I can listen to it. But just listen to some trading books and just use it to understand other profitable traders' mindset. And that's all you listen to. Matter of fact, like cut yourself completely off of YouTube because the YouTube space is going to be different from most of the YouTube space is going to be different from when you start actually listening to these books, um, and stuff like that. Because at that point, when you're constantly listening to multiple traders tell you the same thing over and over, it's gonna get ingrained in your mind that the only way for me to actually get the results that I want is just focusing on the process. Because I can guarantee you, the people who haven't focused on the process, the journey will take a lot longer. Even though it feels quicker because you're doing the actions now, it's gonna take a lot longer. And there's nothing wrong with doing the wrong thing in the beginning of your journey. Trust me, there's nothing wrong with you found the wrong people, you're learning the wrong way because everybody most of everybody starts off like that. And the only way you can grow is if you learn. Life is the biggest lesson to help you improve. And if you aren't open minded as well, you're not gonna improve. Because me personally, I always look to learn as well. I have a little moment. I don't do it every single day, depending on how busy I am. But I will have a moment where I'm gonna try to learn something, and it doesn't matter who the person is. Like if this person has some type of knowledge and they're saying it, I'm gonna listen to the whole thing. Even if they say one thing I don't agree with, I'm gonna listen to the whole thing. And the reason why I will listen to the whole thing is because even if I can pick up one thing that they said, it can change my whole perspective on everything. A lot of people when they're listening to somebody else and they hear one thing they may disagree off, they will completely tune out, which is very it's a very bad way because at the end of the day, we're all gonna have things that we agree and disagree. But if you keep your mind closed It never gonna be open. You just go on the higher time frame. Starbucks still looks good. Just checking over the overall time frames. Still just waiting on that movement right there. Nike still just waiting on. It came up to the 50. I'm still just waiting on this movement. Game like that. And you can just see like to see that all these pairs right here. So this is basically just beating that misconception that even if you have all these trades, it just doesn't mean that you're trading all of them. Because I have rules that allow me to decide whether a market looks clean. If I have like a market like this where both of them can potentially set up, I'll just basically take the one that sets up first and it sets up the cleanest as well. That's in the case I have two different markets. So I want y'all to realize something as well. I always have a plan if price action does something. You need to always come into this thing with a plan. What are you gonna do if two markets are setting up at the exact same time? Because me personally, if Starbucks and Nike setting up at the same time, I'm not gonna take two different trades on two different markets. I'm gonna pick one that looks the clearest to me, and I'm gonna take that one. Even if the other one ends up winning and um the one you took ends up losing, those are stuff you got to keep in mind. So let's talk about reviewing your journal as well. Um, you typically try to review your journal at least no more than once a month. If you have time at the end of the week, review it weekly as well. And what this does is it just keeps you on track. Because there's one thing you're journaling your trades, but if you're not looking at the trades you're journaling on a consistent basis, how you know if you are doing anything wrong unintentionally? Because there are times where you can be doing something wrong unintentionally, and because you didn't review your journal, you didn't catch it in time. So you could review it like at the end of the week, at the end of the month, even quarterly and yearly as well. Those are mandatory. And you can see if your trades are look exactly the same as when you was back testing. Because as long as those trades look exactly similar during your back testing, because you should have all that data as well, then you can just keep trading the system. But never make a decision based on just one trade. Like you change up your whole strategy because of one trade. Because I think about each trade has, even though we all want our trades to win, each individual trade, even though they look like the winners, they have its each own probability of winning basically. So it's not a guarantee you're gonna win, but what keeps you in the game is gonna be your risk management and how you manage that trade. And like I said, once you start thinking in terms of math, it's gonna change the game for you because stuff like closing your profits way too early or increasing your stop loss from a math perspective, right? Say if I took a trade right here from a mathematical perspective, right? The simple math, right? If say you was risking 1% right here, this is your stop loss, right? Does it make sense to increase your stop loss all the way right here when price is going against you, right? No, it doesn't. Because one, like I talked about, you don't have a 100% win rate. But the moment you move your stop loss, this is no longer a 1% risk. This is no longer a 1% risk. This could be like a 3% risk now. So that's one reason I would never increase my stop loss. It's best to just accept the loss and move on rather than increasing it and now you have a bigger loss. Another thing is, um, does it make sense where you're increasing your stop loss and then as price is going up, you somehow got lucky and price went in your direction. And then as soon as price got a little bit in profit, you saw your $200 profit and you took it. It doesn't make sense from a math perspective at all. Because let's just say that 3% risk that you just increased it to was a $3,000 risk on a 100K funded account, right? So now you gotta think the risk to reward was 3,000 for a $200 profit. You just closed the trade right here. It doesn't make sense. So now long term, if you keep making those emotional mistakes, you can guess what happens. You're gonna blow up in the long run. It's really not any hard math. Ugh. I wonder what else I could talk about. It's 11:05. It's still good for me to stay on the chart only because I'm waiting for the entry on the 5 minute. Each one of these candles are 5 minutes, so it's still good to potentially wait for something. The main thing I always struggled with when I was like starting out was definitely the part of my journey where I kept switching my strategy constantly. That was that was in 2021. I went from the first trading strategy I ever was doing was regular support and resistance, and then I had switched over to SMC, Smart Money Concepts. That was around the time where like majority like not, it was equal. Basically, there was an equal number of people trading, regular support and resistance, trend lines and stuff like that. And then you know, smart money concepts started to get a little bit popular. I heard about it. I was trading that as well, and then I was seeing like results, short term results, but then I would get that losing streak, and then I switched over to I think it was yeah, I had switched over to like a whole different mentor. I think it was my current mentor, but like it's kind of hard to explain because I went to my mentor twice because I ended up going to my mentor in 2021 and then I ended up leaving and then I came back in 2022. And that's when I stuck with him. But basically, yeah, I went to my mentor to in 2021 because he was trading SMC, but it was like more in a clear way. And then then I saw ICT, and then I started trading ICT for a little bit, and then after ICT, I hit a losing streak, and then that's when I went back to my mentor, and that's when I actually ended up sticking with him, and that's when I actually joined his mentorship, and I saw the difference. So that was the main issue was just sticking to the strategy and just trading it. Because one thing you got to realize is when you keep ah, when you keep switching your strategy, you're gonna have basically different results because of you're trading different strategies. So it's gonna be all over the place. It is okay to make up refinements. Refinements is different from um switching your strategy. Switching strategy means you completely change change everything that you're doing. Refinements means you made a small tweak based on your data, based on your results that you have. That's the only like beneficial part. Yeah, so bored as I'm waiting. Let me talk about. I was looking for a challenge trade yesterday. I remember if y'all was on yesterday, I was looking for a challenge trade on Euro USD on a 6 hour. Let me just talk about that since I still got time to wait. You can see that I was basically looking for a trade right here when price was pausing against here, and I ended up just canceling it because as price broke down, it just didn't show it the willingness to go higher. So that's like an example of me canceling an order because price broke back through that 20. If price was rejecting now, it kept rejecting and it was pushing higher, I would still have my order on here. It'll basically look something similar to, there's no clean examples right now, but this same thing happens on every single time frame. That's the cool thing about it. Like I think Bitcoin on a weekly time frame. Look, this is how cool it is as well. Bitcoin on a weekly time frame could set up like an actual setup. That's really cool. Like I can guarantee you like for the weekly if the a weekly time frame was your entry time frame, the monthly time frame would probably be like a validation time frame where prices pausing against the 10 and 20. So you can basically see the cycle happening on a monthly perspective too. You have a flush, right? Price converts to that 50 or under all the MAs, makes a pause against the 10 and 20. That's the first one. This is the second one, and we can expect higher prices. Then you look for a confirmation. Price came down to that 50, makes a move up. It's making a pause. So if it can, wait, did it? I mean, this one took out the high. So there's a lot more waiting you would do on a high time frame because each one of these is a week. Wait for this candle to close in 4 days, and then you got to wait another week or to potentially set a buy stop. But that's just like how fractal price can get down to the seconds time frame. I don't have access to the seconds time frame, but I know people that are able to trade the seconds time frame. Me personally, I would never go on the seconds time frame only because like that's way too. I feel like it's way too fast for me, and I don't know about them commissions. Unless I don't know about them commissions now. Them commissions probably be insane. But yeah, you can see that like it's probably like if I'm being honest right here, this kind of looks ugly a little bit, but it wouldn't have made it any setup right here. But you can basically see it basically while I'm waiting. I'm just showing you all examples. Like I can tell if I'm looking at this, um, like if I'm looking at this right here, maybe there was a setup on a lower time frame for it on a daily time frame. Where is it? It's right here. Made a straight move down and pausing against the 10 and 20. Yeah, this is an example of a daily trade example right here. And I'm very honest whether like if this was a good setup. This was a good setup right here based on what I talk about. Only thing is, would I have got stopped out? I probably would have had my stops like somewhere right here. Yeah, and my whole management is just like trailing with the 10. So like an example right this like price broke right here. Like if I was a daily trader, I would have closed the position right there when that price broke right there. So I'm just showing y'all like examples on how this works with different time frames. Maybe I'll make a video on what specific time frames you can use for whatever time frame you trade. because it works with all time frames. It just depends on the time frame that you're pairing it with, basically. Let me go back to Nike on the 5 minute. Make sure it's not doing anything right now. But yeah, it basically just depends on the time frame you're using because it's all fractal. And that's why you can see me like during my challenges, you can see me sometimes I would take a 5 hour trade, sometimes I'll take a 5 minute, sometimes I'll take a 1 minute, but I still don't I still use the same process if I was to trade a one time frame, basically. It's still the same process. But my only plan this year is like I'm gonna see how it goes the whole year with just trading this 5 minute time frame. Because like I said, this is probably like the only year where like I'm I haven't taken much trades. Like I never even went one whole month without taking a trade, so it really tested my discipline because I didn't take any trades in February because there was no setups for me. But I'm gonna see how the whole year goes. If I got a decent amount of trades, just trading the 5 minute, and if it's too small in my eyes, then next year I'll just implement like to make myself more efficient. I'll just implement trading like a few multiple time frames because I'm very confident of like trading like different time frames and stuff like that. Let's see. It's 11:15 right now. Let me assume if I assume in the next few candles can make a setup, so that'll be so this closes at 11:20, 11:25. If I assume that, yeah, we can basically just still stay on. It doesn't look like as like a lot of volume, but anything can happen. I don't want to assume, especially if it's like right at the spot where it could like drop and make a setup. I don't want to assume that it's not going to make a setup, especially since it's on a 5 minute time frame, which gives it enough time to make this move since each one of these candles are 5 minutes. So that's basically just the thought process behind it. I feel like sometimes, even though sometimes I don't take trades and sometimes I do, I feel like these live streams are very helpful in terms of like seeing the behind the scenes and what it takes. Like if I show y'all some type of result, like for example, when I passed the challenge, y'all saw the process on what it takes to pass the challenge. Or when I get another payout, y'all gonna see like the patience it took to get to that payout. Because last year, what I was doing was just I would wait and I would basically record my trade setup, like when I take a trade on my Instagram story. So if I get a trade for the day, I would immediately record it when I'm in that trade and then record the end result. But what people didn't see was the actual patience it took to wait for it for on an actual setup. Yeah. I heard this saying once is to stick to the plan and not your mood. I don't know if y'all heard that saying before, but even if you don't feel like doing the proper work, It's a part of the plan. You have to do it. Just stick to the plan. I know, like sometimes it may feel like you want to make money right now, but the only way to get there if you stick to the plan. And you can use that in outside life too. Like if you have a goal that you want to accomplish outside of trading, you just stick to your plan and not your mood. Some days you're gonna wake up, you're not gonna feel like doing the work. But remember, nobody cares about your goals. If we're being honest, nobody cares about your goals. You're the only person that cares about your goals. So if you're not, do it for yourself, basically. Because if you don't do it, somebody else gonna do it. For me, like I like posting YouTube videos and stuff like that of my journey and all that, and I actually find fun with it. So if I don't post a video, somebody else gonna do it more consistent than me. If I don't work out um to 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 get the goals I want, then somebody else gonna go harder than me, and they gonna get it. And my mindset. Anything I approach it with that same mindset. Like if you follow me on Instagram, you constantly know I'm doing something. I'm always on the move. Keeps you disciplined as well. Yo, I can't find this coin. It's not a coin, it's a stock. It's Nike. It's a stock. But then another thing I tell people too is a plan with no action will get you nowhere. You need a map to get you to your destination. So if you know you want that 1 million in funding, if you know you want 500,000 in funding, what you got to do is just you sit down, write down your exact plan on getting there, read that every day, and actually execute that plan, no matter what. So if you know that you, if you know that like you already have your system down pat, the only thing left for your plan to be in effect is okay, buying challenges and following the plan on that. So it's about just like anything I have on my goal list, there's a plan attached to it. There's a map attached to it. I talked about it before, but trying to accomplish a goal with no plan is the same as driving a parked car. You're not gonna get nowhere. I said that in one of my YouTube shorts, but you're not gonna get nowhere. It's true. Anyway, another thing you got to realize is you as a person is you're creative. You are creative as hell. Like people don't realize how creative they are, and if they actually use their minds for like, if they actually used it, they would notice like, yo, how did I come up with that? Think about it. Like there'll be times where people like they instead of like coming up with a solution, they're complaining about whatever situation you're in. But there's always a solution for the situation you're in. You just have to use your mind hard enough to come up with that solution. Because me personally, I don't. I don't really like when people like they make themselves feel hopeless and they beg people other people for things. And it's not me trying to be rude or anything. It's because I know that that person, everybody's creative like hell. Like, and if they actually put their mind to it, they can really come up with this with something great using the resources there you have. Because at the end of the day, everybody started at somewhere. Everybody started somewhere, and they had to use their same creative mind to come up with something. But you have to believe you have a creative mind to even do it. If you don't believe you don't have a creative mind, if you don't believe you can actually do something, you're not gonna do it because you're not gonna actually start. You're not gonna actually put a plan together to actually do it. So that's what really stops people. But if you actually sat down and be like, okay, what can I do to get this trading stuff down? Yeah, I work on 50 hours a week. Where do I have time? Because when I used to work 50 hours a week at McDonald's. I used to work 50 hours a week. And how I did it basically was, so I was a manager. So sometimes I used to work the morning shifts from 9 a.m. to 4. And sometimes I used to work the night shifts. So what I did was, since I wanted to trade on one session, there was, I think it was even on my YouTube channel when I was still working there a little bit. Uh, it was, I used to work the morning shifts. When I was working the morning shift, I was just trade agent session. When I was working night shift, I just swapped over to a New York session. When I needed to study for like anything, like when I was studying the charts, studying the YouTube videos, I would study that on my 15-minute breaks. And yes, I had 15-minute breaks. Because that's the only amount of break I could take. I could take a little bit longer because I was a manager, but I could only take like a 15-minute break, come back and stuff like that because it was like a paid break. But I still, every little moment I had, I used that into learning. When my mom used to do my hair, I would be watching videos, videos on like just trading. So it's like about using your time wisely. If you know you have an off day, instead of going out and having fun, use that for your studying time for the charts. And I understand that like you want to have fun now, but you have to be temporarily uncomfortable to be permanently comfortable. And a lot of people, if we're being honest, are way too comfortable. So if we put it like that, if you working 50 hours at your job, shoot, put like 50 in your put 50 into trading. Cause you telling me you're gonna work hard for somebody else, but you're not gonna work hard on your goals. It doesn't make any sense. Let me see what's going on here. Let me go up here. Still practically looks good. It's just price is not really moving. Hmm. I'll do this right here. So this is what I'm gonna do. Cause right now it's almost time for me to start working out and everything. I wanted to work out, but this looks pretty much good to me. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end the stream right now because it's almost like 12 o'clock. And if price does end up making like a move like this before that 12 o'clock and stuff like that, then I will I'll restart the stream and call this part two so y'all can see if I get to take a trade. But if this doesn't happen, y'all not gonna see a stream until tomorrow. Let me see what time am I coming on. I'm gonna just let y'all know what time I'm coming on. So that's 30 tomorrow. So we have red news here. I'll probably be on like around 9:30. I'll be on around like 9:30. But yeah, see y'all tomorrow or or maybe later today, depending.